Let's just get right into it. It's probably one of the biggest, most difficult questions any of us could ever ask. If God is truly good, why is the world so full of pain and suffering? It's a question that has echoed down through the centuries, and today we're going to see what the scriptures themselves have to say about it.
And what's incredible is that we're not the first people to ask this, not by a long shot. This cry for help, it comes directly from the prophet Habakkuk. Here is a man with tremendous faith, and yet he was also struggling, trying to make sense of the suffering he saw all around him.
So, right off the bat, if you've ever felt this way, you are in very good company. Asking this question isn't a sign that your faith is weak. It's a sign that you have a heart that's searching for answers. This is an ancient struggle, and the Tanakh never shies away from it.
Now, to find the real answer, we have to start by asking the right questions. And the very first one has to be, who is actually responsible for all the suffering we see? The answer might not be what you think.
Okay, this is so important because we have to clear the air on a few common ideas. A lot of people believe that suffering is some kind of test from God, or maybe it's all just fate, already written in the stars. But the scriptures, they tell a very different story. They're clear that God is not the one causing our pain. In fact, as it says in Ecclesiastes, time and again, man has dominated man to his harm. The real key, the thing that unlocks this whole question, is a powerful gift that we've all been given.
And that gift is Bechera Chov Shit, free will. It's our ability to choose, to decide our own path. And this isn't some kind of design flaw. It's the very thing that makes us human. Think about it. Without free will, what would love or loyalty even mean? Nothing. We'd just be like robots, running on a pre-written program.
And we can see right where this gift comes from. We were made in God's image, and a huge part of that image is the ability to choose, to make moral decisions. That's what really separates us from every other living thing on this planet.
So, if free will is a gift, how in the world did it lead to so much pain? Well, to understand that, we have to go all the way back to the very beginning, to a perfect garden and one single fateful choice. What happened in Eden? It really unfolds in 4 basic steps. First, God gave one simple, clear command. It was about trust. But then came the challenge, a suggestion that God was hiding something, that he wasn't being completely good. That challenge led to disobedience, a deliberate choice to ignore God's direction. And the result of that choice? The entire question of God's right to rule was thrown up in the air. The main point here is that suffering was never part of the original plan. It was the direct consequence of choosing to reject God's guidance. And there it is. That was the core of the temptation. The lie was that humanity didn't need God, that we could go it alone, decide for ourselves what's good and what's bad, and be perfectly successful. This single choice created a universal question that absolutely had to be answered. Which of course leads us to the next really hard question. If God is all-powerful, why didn't he just step in and put an end to the rebellion right then and there? Why has he allowed thousands of years of human suffering to go by? The answer is wrapped up in this one crucial concept, Ribbonut, or sovereignty. See, this isn't just about raw power, it's about the moral and legal right to rule. The challenge in Eden wasn't just about an apple. It was a profound legal challenge to God's authority. You could almost think of it as a universal court case being filed. And so, the first big question that was laid before this universal court was this: can human beings actually govern themselves successfully? Can we create a world of peace and happiness all on our own, without God? The challenge was on the table and it needed an answer. So what would it take to settle that debate? Not just for a little while, but for all time. You see, if God had simply destroyed the rebels, that wouldn't have answered the moral question. It would have been an answer based on force, not justice. It might have even looked like God was afraid of the opposition. No, something more, something much more definitive was needed. The answer was time. God has allowed all these thousands of years for one simple reason: to let humanity try everything. Every kind of government, every philosophy, every technology you can imagine. Why? To create a complete, undeniable record, evidence, if you will, of what happens when humans rule themselves. This sets a permanent legal precedent for all of eternity, proving once and for all who has the right to rule, not by force, but based on the evidence itself. And that's really the whole point. By allowing this experiment in human self-rule to run its full course, God is making sure that when he finally does step in, the issue is settled forever. Just as the prophet Nahum wrote, this kind of rebellion, this kind of suffering will never, ever be allowed to happen a second time. The case will be closed.
And that brings us to the best part of the whole story. because God hasn't just been passively waiting. He has been actively preparing a permanent, beautiful solution to undo all the damage, all the pain that this rebellion has caused.
The scriptures promise a future where this entire disastrous experiment of human misrule is just wiped away, a time when wickedness is gone for good, when real peace and happiness are finally restored, and, incredibly, a time when those who have died throughout history will be brought back to life, right here on a perfect earth.
I mean, just imagine that for a second. This is so much more than a promise for a better world. It's a promise of personal healing. The prophet Isaiah paints this beautiful picture of a time when the deepest sources of our pain, death itself, and all our grief will be completely removed by God Himself.
And the healing will be so complete, so profound, that the memory of all this suffering, it'll just fade away. It won't be a source of trauma anymore. The joy of that new world will be so real, so overwhelming that the pain of the past just won't even come to mind.
So all of this, it brings the question right back to us, here and now. The evidence of human rule is all around us, every day. The promise of God's rule is laid out clearly in the Scriptures. And so the question becomes a very personal one. In this great, universal dispute over the right to rule, which side will you choose?